Gauteng has seen an increase in rape, murder, attempted murder and other serious contact crimes. This was recorded between October and December last year. The crime stats were tabled by Gauteng Police Commissioner Elias Mawela. Let's look at the role now that surveillance may even play in crime-fighting efforts. Of course, there's a lot of debate around the effect, in fact, how effective surveillance will be, and we will be joined on this conversation by TJ Masilela, Gauteng Community Police Forum Board Chair. He will join us at a later stage, but we now do have Croock, Vumacam CEO. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. No doubt the stats are worrying, but there have been questions that have been asked about whether or not surveillance is an effective tool when it comes to fighting crime. How do you respond?
Thanks for having us. We obviously find technology and surveillance as a very effective tool in fighting crime. I think, with the evolution of technology and, the better algorithms and the more situational awareness, it allows, resources on the ground to get to know what's taking place and where do they send out their vehicles. And obviously, it's not a new initiative for us. So, Vumacam has been around for the last 6 years. We've rolled out a significant camera network with over 7,000 cameras that's already live and operational and working with the private sector. And in areas that we've deployed cameras, we've seen a significant reduction of crime that takes place.
Let's talk about, some of the people who are concerned, especially around, privacy concerns and how this, the tracking also, works, and all the data that then is collected and how it is stored and what happens to it. There are people who are concerned about this, saying that this may not be the best way.
So obviously, privacy, and we take privacy really seriously. We've built our platform on the basis of privacy and making sure that, it's utilized for the right reasons. A lot of the technology, the technology is made up of two kinds of major technologies. One being license plate recognition, which, scans vehicles and then queries the SABC Unicode database to tell you if that vehicle has been involved in a crime. Only if that vehicle has been flagged on that list does it then alert into the control room. So, we're not interested in people that aren't, haven't been listed onto those databases. And the second, technology that we utilize is an overview camera, which then has black screen technology and, intelligence that sits above it that looks for unusual behavior. Only if there's something unusual does it then alert the operator. So, in the stats and the history, we only see that operators are looking at, less than 1% of the video, with the other 99%, getting flushed through the system and not being scrutinized. We also store our video in a tier 3 data center, the same data center that your banks or your insurance companies host their data. And then obviously we make sure that we, control it. No one can download footage without having a case number, registering with us, and, with our second authorization, releasing that information. So we've put a lot of belts and braces to make sure that it's utilized and only utilized for the positive impact of crime fighting.
And of course there is one aspect of looking at it as working, but there's also another one when it comes to the public sector now, and you're juxtaposing with what happens in the private sector. There are concerns about response times, about the personnel that could also be responding to some of what may be picked up by some of these cameras. That of course also becomes a concern as to whether or not they will have these adequate resources to be able to respond to what has been picked up.
Yeah, as a technology platform, our job and where we're trying to add value is making sure that we can give you the information of what incidents taking place where, so that you can get a resource to that point as quick as possible. So, I can't comment for the response or the how good that response is, but what we can do is tell you that something's happening over here, get someone there quickly to deal with it. And then also utilizing information around where hotspots are, where you should have your vehicles around, where you should, have more resources, and making decisions off the information that we can provide to them.
And I was hoping that TJ could join us, because this could also lead to, you know, some of the breakthroughs when it comes to the quality of even some of the investigations that we see happening out there. And I wonder, just to prick your brain a little bit when it comes to technology, can we see some of, you know, the cameras, the surveillances, the system being linked with the SAPS data? Is that a possibility at all?
So it already works like that. So we've already integrated into the police database, and that's how we query the number plates according to stolen or vehicles that have been involved in crime. And that's where large successes come from, is the close working relationship. We've got a very long-standing and good working relationship with Business Against Crime, and under the E2 initiative, and that's what gives us the relationship to query the SAPS database.
And do you find that I'm not sure what happened there. Pardon me. Can you still hear me?
So, yeah.
Something happened with the technology there. I wonder, though, sometimes you find that, there would be cameras all over, and then there's concerns around the cameras being maintained. There's, of course, concerns about cameras being manned. Even some of those, where you see people saying crime happened in this area, but cameras were not being manned. And we sometimes hear about the costs, and saying that, the cost may be an impediment here when it comes to maintaining some of the surveillance, or even making sure that it is working adequately. How do you begin to bridge that particular gap? Because we do hear about it quite often.
Yeah, so I think, because we position ourselves as a platform, we're not a security company. We never look at the video footage ourselves. Our focus is to making sure the camera always works, the connectivity always works, the secure connections are there, the storage, the redundancy. So we've built all our systems to make sure. Our promise to our customers, being the private sector, and, our customer being into, the COJ, is really that the cameras always work. And you have a service level agreement making sure the cameras always work, because you need to make sure the cameras work so the analytics can work, so that your control room can then get the right alerts to then send out the correct resources.
And that is exactly what's, very, very important. I do understand Mr. Masilela has joined us for this conversation, and that's TJ Masilela, Gauteng Community Police Forum Board Chair. Thank you so much, Mr. Masilela, for your time. And I'm going to start with the question that I just spoke to Ricky about a short while ago, and it's the fact that when it comes to surveillance, is it wise for some of, the departments to put this particular system in place, especially when you look at some of the shortages when it comes to response personnel, some people not being able to then adequately maintain the systems?
Oh, no, definitely. Thank you very much. I see Ricky, our team here. But definitely. In certain areas like gated communities and obviously boom gate, where cameras are playing a major important role. This feed, remember, it's also a deterrent to some extent. So definitely, it's a way to the future. The only worry that we remain to have is that, are they using it correctly? Are we then using this in the court of law to secure prosecution? Are we using this as a part of the statement that the investigating officers can also use? How much does it sit in the? How much weight does it have in the court of law? But definitely, e-policing is what we want to see happening. Yeah. It's the best in certain areas because of the crime. Just having crimes, you know that you have deterred certain crimes. So definitely, it is a way forward.
And Ricky was talking about some of the methods and in fact and how it helps with some of the investigations, because we do often talk about the quality of the investigations themselves, but you talk about gated communities. What then becomes the option for areas that are not gated? Townships are not gated, and these are some of the areas where we're seeing crime also becoming a problem.
Well, look, I was just making an example of that, because majority of this surveillance you'll find in those areas, but it doesn't necessarily mean that in for schools, for live computer centers in a school, in the street. I think part of the Vumacam commitment is to make sure that their infrastructure is secured. But while you're having the cameras surveilling the infrastructure, you're also deterring some crime, or you can be able also to use that kind of information and use that in the crime prevention, but also maybe in the crime securing of the conviction. I was just making that as one of the examples, but I'm saying to you, look, when we went to Beijing in China, for instance, each and every corner and every robot you find a camera. Now, that is what at some point we had in downtown Johannesburg, a small street and so forth. And if you look at those times and look at now, all was managed at the cultural center. You can tell that there was a little bit of difference. We just had to innovate and move further from what we started then. Why we stopped, it's something that we must resuscitate and see, because the e-policing, some time ago, we've been talking about, and the private sector is coming to the party to also help us to be able to move into that direction. We have no reason why not. I mean, some of the cameras are so cheap, some of the installation are just next to nothing. We should, every household actually at some point, not just because of the issues of crime, but also to have the control of your assets or of your property wherever you are.
And Dr. Masilela, it's a pity you joined so, just as the conversation had progressed, but I do hope we pick it up, because it's quite an important one, especially when you touched on how we used to have them in the Johannesburg CBD, and, the situation was somewhat different to what we're seeing today. But let's speak again in future, and I do hope that we get to probe this further. Let me thank you both for your time. We certainly do appreciate it here on the show. That's TJ Masilela, Gauteng Community Police Forum Board Chair, and Croock, Vumacam CEO.